Opera is the art of empathy. You have to embody the human emotion so honestly that someone sitting 90 feet away from you really feels it.
It's it almost makes you a shoe-in for CX, because the other side of it too is like you have to flip your personality to be like, okay, this person's angry, this person's really nice, but I need to be able to like have the emotional depth to read the room.
You cannot design for customers you don't understand. So representation is not just like moral work; it's essential to insights, empathy, and accuracy.
Hey friends, welcome to Above the Fold podcast. I'm your host, Jess Servion. We're going to be talking about everything in your customer's journey. You're going to learn things about customer experience, brand experience, and marketing secrets that help you drive your brand success. So stay tuned, buckle up, and let's get into the episode.
Welcome back to another episode of Above the Fold podcast with me, Jess, your host. This week, I am joined by Aniesha Jones, a baddie in the CX space. This girl is one of my good friends, but also she is here to share her CX philosophy, her retention philosophy, her e-commerce philosophy, but also to share with you that she comes from a creative field in opera and fucking vocal performance. So Aniesha, before I get into the questions,
Sure.
hello.
Hello. I'm so blessed to be here. So thrilled to be here. Jess, badass in the space as well. Like she said, one of my good friends, and I'm just so excited to talk about this space and where it's going, where I've come from, and hopefully inspire someone else.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this conversation is going to be real fun. So I urge you all to stick around because it's going to get spicy. It's going to get fun. It's going to get New York meets Chicago.
Yes.
So we know that you began your professional life in the world of opera and vocal performance, but I'm curious, like, what were the most surprising or unexpected lessons that you learned on that stage that prepared you for your career in business and CX leadership?
Absolutely. Oh, I love this question so much. Well, first and foremost, people are always so surprised when they hear I started my career as a professional opera singer, but truly has been one of the biggest foundations of customer experience leadership. So first thing I will say is you have to be incredibly polished, right? Like we are polished. We have to make sure that we are practicing day and night. It is a sport. Think Cynthia Erivo. That just doesn't happen overnight. That woman is quite literally an athlete if you look at her life. But I think what it really starts from for me is opera is the art of empathy. You have to embody the human emotion so honestly that someone sitting 90 feet away from you really feels it. You have to connect without speaking directly to the audience. And that's, to me, CX in a nutshell. Behind every ticket is a person with a need, a frustration, a hope. And I think we forget about that hope piece. And I think that my job has always been to meet people where they are emotionally, not just procedurally. So Hopper, I'd say, has taught me discipline, presence, the power of clear communication. And those principles really shape the way I show up in boardrooms and with teams as well.
Yeah, I love that. You know what's so funny about the CX space as a whole, though, is so many people come from theater or art.
Yes.
So many, like Katie from Glossier.
Love Katie. Hey, Katie.
Major. Yeah, shout out to Katie. There's like there are quite a few others.
Yes.
Lauren from Nestig, also a theater major, but I agree with you. Like being on stage, really, it almost makes you a shoe-in for CX, because the other side of it too is like you have to flip your personality to be like, okay, this person's angry, this person's really nice, but I need to be able to like have the emotional depth to read the room.
100%. And appeal to execs too, right? Like what makes their eyes light up when you're speaking to them? What worlds have they been in? Can you bring them to a moment in time when you're really thinking about how do I get buy-in on this thing? You know, one of the big things we'll talk about is CX not as a problem-solving unit, but more of a revenue-driving unit, right? Like those are things that like some execs might not be able to wrap their arms around. So how can I like appeal to them in those moments as well and really appeal to those emotions and things that they've done in the past for sure?
Totally. Well, okay, so your education includes a Bachelor of Science in Vocal Performance, but also a minor in marketing.
Yeah.
How did yeah, I know. I mean the same. How did combining a highly creative discipline with the analytical perspective of marketing inform your entire career trajectory?
Such a great question. And I say thank you, parents, because I think they saw the writings on the wall. They were like, you can be creative, do that vocal performance, do all those things, but let's also be grounded and, make some money here as well if things don't work out. So, vocal performance, I would say, taught me emotional intelligence.
Mm.
Marketing taught me analytical thinking. That is something I really think that I had to learn on the job, if I'm really honest, and be a sponge around. We have a lot of gut feelings in CX, right? But you have to be able to back that up with data. So I'd say I built my career at the intersection of both. So to me, creativity and data are not opposites. And I think a lot of people think that they are. They're partners. So data gives you that clarity. Empathy gives you the direction. And I think that combination is art and science and is the backbone of CX philosophy. So it also shaped the way I approach CRM, personalization, and loyalty, which I also try to fold into CX as well. Like, that is so important to me. I need this shift to become like, we are loyalty experts. We are, we have all of the insights that every other team has, and we need to be at the center of those. So to me, you can't really design great journeys if you don't understand both the human and the behavioral signals as well.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit about your past career, though.
I like it.
So you started building and scaling the CX function at Rent the Runway in the early days. What were the key principles you pledged to learn as you made that leap from the arts into the high stakes world of D2C fashion and experience management, especially subscriptions?
Subscriptions, that was new. Like, folks were not doing subscriptions, and it was very high stakes. We're talking about $3,000 Marquesa gowns that we're renting for $100, right? Like, this had to be perfect. So I always say I would not have been successful in my career if I didn't start at Rent the Runway.
Yeah.
There was so much to learn there, and we learned a lot on the job. So I'd say at the early days of Rent the Runway, it was like stepping into like the startup laboratory, fast, scrappy, and full of opportunity. I always try to think about things in threes. You always hear me saying this, but the core principles that guided me, I would say, are being endlessly curious. When you're building from scratch, curiosity is your strategy. Obsessing over clarity. If your team doesn't know what great looks like, customers will 100% feel that. We've seen it, especially through those Black Friday, Cyber Monday period.
Yeah, I know.
Treat customer conversations as insight and not noise. I always say this to my teams. Yes, we want to make sure that we're meeting customers where we are, but we also want to make space for conversations. How are we learning if we're just problem solving, right? If we can't get on the phone with that person who is trying to rent for their wedding and we don't have any of those insights from them, we're not doing much there. So that mindset really allowed me to guide product, marketing, and operational decisions, but long before voice of the customer was finalized. So I think how I would ground this is it taught me that CX isn't just service, it's the heartbeat of the business. And I feel like a lot of brands say this, but are we starting with CX in the ground up and funneling this out?
No, I mean, it never is like that, right? Like, it's never. I do
now
think
it is. I feel like I'm now. It's getting there.
I think it's getting there, but I think what's so funny, and it's kind of like truthfully what we're talking about offline a little bit, right?
Right.
And this is my podcast, so I can say whatever I want. Okay. So I do think that it's really interesting. I think we're seeing like founders and operators like care about CX, but it's taken such a long time to it. And like, we're both people who have been in this space for a really long time, right? Like, we've been in, I mean, I've been counting the years, like 20 plus for me. Like
12 for me.
I'm also 40. So there is that part of it too. But like, I've been in customer service, customer experience. Then I like went into product marketing. I've done all these things, right? And then I like moved into like ecommerce and went into like festivals and like all consult
Are we
with.
hearing this? The goat. Let's just call it what it is.
But the reason I like even said all those things though is because the thing is like what I've noticed. I remember coming up in my startup career on the tech side and people just saying like what customer experience is and caring about it from tech. And then now I'm in like the D2C world and I've been in this world for quite some time. And like, I think what's interesting is we see a lot of these like founders who are like, oh yeah, I care about customer. I actually, I'm going to give you one example.
Give me one.
I had this consulting client who I actually had to fire because because they hired me and they were like, we need help and we need help immediately. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm a problem solver. Let's figure out like the solutions, all the jams. And I'm like, listen, I took a look at your analytics and I can see all the issues that you have going on here. But clearly the reason you have these issues is because you're chasing revenue, but you're not actually thinking about the customer experience after acquisition, conversion, and then retention. And they're like, and so then I made like some, and I'm not going to call anybody out. And I'm not going to call exactly what it is because I feel like you would figure it out. But like, so then I called out like a very simple thing that they need to do is like, which is telling their customer about something that has to do with their money in their journey. And I turned on a notification. They got so mad at me. They were like, oh, you affected revenue. And I'm like, no, I didn't, babe.
Not.
Your churn rate ended up going down is what happened, right? And so like their churn rate ended up going down and all these things happened, but like they weren't getting the revenue as quickly as possible. It's like, so my point is though, at some point, like what I find is like you care about customer experience, or these brands care about customer experience, but then the money blinds them. And I totally get it. Like you have to, like, I get it. Money makes the world go round. Absolutely. But when you only care about revenue and you don't give a fuck about retention and CX, what really fucking happens is you burn yourself out.
100%.
You burn out 80% of your customers. You don't got a motherfucking returning customer.
There's no levers. You're literally, North Star is just the revenue.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's nothing in between there. They're buzzwords at that point, right?
Yeah, and then think about where we are right now. Like we're filming this in December of 2025. This will probably air in a couple of weeks, but like December of 2025, we are before the holidays, but right after Black Friday.
Yes.
And everybody's like, oh, Black Friday. But I can tell you one thing, because I've been running marketing across 5 different brands as just marketing consultant, not even CX. And I can tell you one thing, this year is very different. This year is very, people are not spending money on, and like, even for my own consumerism, like normally I'm like,
I want everything. You're very choosy. Yes. Yeah.
And I decided, I was like, no, I'm only going to get the things that I actually need, right? And so my point is, you burn 80% of your customers in that example that I shared. When you get to these big revenue holidays, they ain't thinking about you, babe. They ain't thinking about you.
What's the brand alignment? Why am I here? It's not enough to just say, here's 10% off. That's what we saw this year, right? Every offer was what? 30% off. Oh, we extended, we added 5. Oh, the gift with purchase is not working in that way. You have to connect.
Yeah,
especially with Gen Z experiences.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know, you have to connect. Okay, well, we're going to skip over a couple of things. So we're going to go into the next segment. And because this is actually a really good segue into like revenue, right? Yeah. So, okay, you stated that in your ideal world, CX would be the heart of the business, and not just a cost center. But what concrete shifts need to happen for companies to truly see CX as a direct driver of loyalty, revenue, and advocacy?
Great question. You ask such good questions. Loyalty, retention, and lifetime value.
Yeah.
All of it is built through experience. And we just spoke about this. So again, great segue. Companies need to make 3 shifts. Again, power of 3 for me. Measure what matters. So not just handling time or deflection, but accuracy, confidence created, loyalty gained, advocacy sparked. Embed CX upstream. When CX has a voice in the product, supply chain, loyalty, marketing, friction disappears before it ever reaches the customer. And I think something people really miss, and you were just hitting on this, is honoring the small moments. Advocacy isn't built through those grand gestures all the time. It's built from clarity, consistency, and emotional resonance. What are those gaps in the customer journey? Where are they getting hemmed up there? What do we need to do there? Is it enough to just have an FAQs page? Could you lean into live chat and surface some of those questions? Could you proactively give some sort of prompt on those live chats when someone's stuck on the page for however long? Again, it goes back to creating moments for conversation. And I think that's where also AI plays a great part in that, right? Like folks are so scared of AI, right? But that needs to be trained and customized. But that will help us to create those moments where we're not worried about Wizmo anymore. If I hear any tickets about Wizmo, I'm like, and I can reduce that noise. So you have those moments to be able to have those conversations with customers and those really micro moments that you may have missed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think that also like people are scared of AI. And
Yes.
I think it's like kind of so silly
So
because
silly.
I mean, listen, there was a surge of like, oh my God, AI is going to replace my job. It's going to do the things, babe. And then all the third party tools came out. And I, trust me, I have implemented
Oh,
majority of them. And I'm like, absolutely not.
yep.
I am now, you know what's so funny? Whatever. Whoever's listening to this. I am actually on the vein of not installing a third party AI tool anymore and doubling down on whatever my help desk has because
Silly.
everybody says like, oh yeah, oh, we're gonna replace this, we're gonna do 40-60% of your this that. No, you're not. You
No,
know
you're
what you're
not.
gonna answer from me? You're gonna answer my Wismo tickets. You're
Yeah.
gonna answer me my lowest hanging fruit items. But when it comes to like subscription and reasoning and retention and building loyalty, all of those types of tickets, you still need the emotional connection with a human in order and we can include AI as like even using macros. Okay.
Absolutely. That right. Or helping to guide, right? So maybe we have a robust SOPs and a robust knowledge bases for folks, right? And I think Gorgeous, just a little shout out, does this really well. But with their AI agent, you can do a preview beforehand to kind of help guide, right? So maybe you have things in place, but it also allows our agents to also amend those, right? We're always talking about curating that moment to the individual, right? Not sending that kind of blanket macro out or that AI response out, giving the opportunity to train the AI one, but also the opportunity to amend to that so that you can train and so it gets smarter over time. So I think that's where companies are missing the mark here. Exactly what you said, but then also not fully training. You might need a team to train an AI. You
Oh
can't
my God.
just right? It can't just be one person and this thing was wrong, right?
Yeah.
It can be
And
done.
that's
I
like
also
a
think it needs to
whole
be self-built.
totally. And that's like a whole other bag. But what I'm curious from you though is how do you calculate the ROI for initiatives that rely on like soft skills like that empathy or loyalty?
Yeah.
And then second, like how do you pitch those investments to finance or an executive team if like everybody wants fucking AI?
Right. Well, first and foremost, I'm just going to say this and I'm going to say it loud. Empathy is absolutely a metric and has an ROI.
Mm-hmm.
When teams practice empathy effectively, you see lower churn, higher retention, higher repeat purchase, increased AOV, and organic advocacy. So essentially, to me, and I'm just going to drill it home, empathy reduces escalations, empathy increases lifetime value, empathy drives revenue because people buy where they feel understood. And the way that I try to pitch is retention is the most efficient and effective acquisition strategy there is. So again, I think just leaning into, again, where I said, what makes their eyes perk up? Are we speaking their language, right? A lot of the times when you have these like voice of the customer moments or voice of the customer forums, the reason they're not aligning with what you're saying is because you're not speaking their language. So there also has to be opportunities where you're getting into the room with marketing and saying, what does this mean to you? What does churn mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, what are those buzzwords that we hear all the time and those great metrics that we hear that actually resonate with folks and are being used on the CX side as well? You know, I've seen a lot of times in my career where you're in a meeting with a team like marketing or e-commerce, and we have all these acronyms, and our team's like, "What the hell? I don't know what that acronym is." Right? Like it's marketing speak. Make sure everyone speaks the same language, and the way you do that is getting comfortable with having voice of the customer forms, getting comfortable with allowing folks that may not be VPs or senior directors and maybe associates to sit down with those folks to really understand what matters to us, what are those KPIs on our side, and how we can drive those as a company as well.
Yeah, for sure. So in the D2C space, like brand advocacy is also very critical, right? And like, this is like definitely like loyalty and empathy and like those things that we're talking about. But what do you think the other key elements of an experience? Oh, sorry. What are the key elements of an experience that reliably turns a satisfied customer into a passionate advocate for the brand?
Great question. Consistency is going to come up for me every time. Customers fall in love with reliability, recognition. That is huge right now. I know you've seen this across the board. Customers want to feel like more than just an order. And I'm seeing this kind of come through in loyalty programs, right? Where you're seeing a lot of companies change these loyalty programs where they're seeing people get into that first, bucket. And then the highest loyalty folks are up there, but we're like, we're going to give you 10% off. We're going to give you a gift with purchase. when in reality, could we be using them for focus groups?
Yeah.
Could we make them true VIPs? Can we have a VIP channel dedicated to them and create some community here? So I think for me, it's consistency and recognition. Um, Advocacy to me also isn't just the wow moments, it's the repeated feeling of I trust them, I trust them, I trust them. And I think you kind of said it well when you're talking about how everything is changed. Like we had a government shutdown, right? So people are really being picky about and choosy about where they're buying, how they're spending their money there. So I think it really comes down to trust these days as well. Like I'm going to continue to buy with brands that I know are aligned with my core values, but also like I know their shipping's going to be great. I know I'm going to get it on time. I know there's not going to be any problems there. That's what people are looking for.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, listen, we're going to go here.
We're going to go. Go here. I don't even know where here is, but I'm ready.
We're going to go into this part of the conversation, but this is unscripted. Okay. I was thinking about even during this holiday season, like what you were just saying about how like people buy from people who like, they have an emotional investment to, or that you want to support. Right.
Sure.
And everybody's like posting their Spotify Wrapped
Yes.
right now. And what's interesting though is I also am seeing like a lot of backlash on like TikTok of Spotify, because Spotify is like actively running ads for like ice.
Yes.
And then again, it's like this big giant that everybody uses, but then you see like these cohorts like exiting out of it because it doesn't like match with their political beliefs. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anything like political. I mean, I posted something on TikTok about Goodles.
Yes. That was so good.
And yeah, and like, but I was getting a lot of like comments about it, about like, oh, well, we'd love to support Goodles, but one of their founders is, it brings in like the Israeli, like Palestine conflict, right? And I'm not sharing opinion on about either one of these things, but my point is that we are in a very interesting period of like political,
right?
Like, and we have been since for quite some time.
Really, and it should be politicized.
Yeah. And so my point is though, is just like, people buy, and I'm not saying it has to all be political. What I am saying though is people do think about the people that they're giving their money to.
They do.
What I'm thinking.
They do. And it doesn't matter if the entire company or individuals feel that way.
Yeah.
You called it out directly. One person.
Yeah. Well, one person, but I mean, I don't necessarily want to go fully into all of these things, but one person, but I will say that we're in such like a virality type of life now with like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all these places. And people, I mean, like, I know I scroll things and I immediately go to the comment section to see like what other people are saying. It's controversial. You know what I mean?
Yes. I'm like, and you have that. And that's the funny part about it too, is you do go directly there. And then you're like, wait, I didn't think about it that way.
And then you start thinking about it. Right. And it's like, and I don't know. I don't want to go too deep down this path because like I like to stay very neutral. Sure. But my point is though, is that it's not only do people want to spend money where they want to spend money and support the brands that they want to support, it also comes down to like we are in a very like influential type of culture.
Absolutely.
So it's like, it's so interesting. You have to stand for something.
Right, right. You have to be very careful about the confirmation bias too, right? Or what you're seeing. That's what I try to. Like, I will go into the comments sometimes and I'm like, did that just change my whole perspective? But is that what we needed to happen there? Or like, and I'm that type of person too. And I know you are too. Like, provide the evidence, talk me through these things, and I may change my perspective. But I also don't want to be fed something so quickly that I'm like, oh, I just changed that. But you see that's the culture.
That's the culture. That's my point. Is like people can switch on you in like a second.
One second.
I know.
Agreed. I'm glad we touched on that. It's very important.
Yeah, I mean, it is important, like, let's share our opinions. Okay. But, okay. So thinking back to your time at Supergoop, how did you integrate customer insights to drive product or marketing decisions rather than just service improvements? So basically what I'm asking here is like more so, we spend a lot of time on insights, and I get asked this question often from like junior level, CX people of like, how do I get my team to actually listen to me? And then I'm like, well, what are you actually reporting back?
Yes. Love this. Love this. Great question. So I'd say what I've emphasized is CX insights aren't support data, they're growth data. Say that again. CX insights aren't support data, they're growth data. And I think we need to like put that stake in the ground. Whether it was sunscreen confusion at Supergroup, early journey friction at Buffy, or shade matching challenges at beauty brands, voice of the customer really influenced messaging clarity, education strategy, PDP updates, CRM upflows, and loyalty design. So I think the way that we should frame it is CX is the company's listening engine. I would love for this to stick in our community. Yeah. And when that engine is integrated upstream, that entire ecosystem really, really improves.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I definitely agree with you. It's just like, it's so, we just need to have a seat at the table, though.
We have to. And it has to be at the start. It cannot be after the fact. Like, we went through this entire strategy. We changed this on the website. Okay, CX is a need to know. Cannot continue to be need to know. Like, we are informing, we are strategists. I say this to my teams all of the time. I need you to all think about yourself as strategists, not just problem solvers, not just retroactive or reactive.
Yeah. Retroactive or reactive problem solvers gets you into proactivity.
Proactivity.
Yes.
That part.
I know.
I love it when your eyes light up on things too. It makes me so happy.
I know. So as a leader in customer insights, how do you personally strike the balance between a data-driven decision and the essential role of creativity, but also like trusting your gut in designing customer journeys?
Yeah, I had to get I'm going to be really real with you. This is something that I felt very insecure about, especially coming from an opera background, right? Like, I had to prove myself very, very quickly. I've been in CX, worked at Sephora in college. I've done all of those things, right? But it's one of those things where you really have to push that soft skills are just as important as all of the other skills, right? Like, you can't really teach empathy. And I always say this to my teams as well. You also can't teach nice. I can tell you how to do the job, but like, I'm hiring people who are kind and nice and empathetic and actually should have some intuition and gut feelings around things. We'll back it with data, but they should. So what I'd say is data tells you what's happening. Empathy tells you why it's happening. And I think people really, really need to understand that. And then creativity really tells you how to fix it. And for me, you need all three things to design meaningful experience. So I always start with the data, the patterns, and the gaps. But the why almost always surfaces from the tone, hesitation, confusion, or excitement. So my job is really to integrate both sides of that. Data is the compass, empathy is the terrain, and you need both to navigate. And everyone who's watching this is going to crack up because I always talk about compass and terrain, all of these things here. So I hope that resonates.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would love to know, like, do you have any sort of example of your experience where like data pointed you one way, but your empathy or intuition suggested something completely different?
Yes, love this. So at one of the brands that I've worked with in my other legs, the return data pointed to quality concerns. But to me, something really fell off because customers genuinely loved the product, right? So you're like looking at NPS, you're looking at all these things. And I also want to call out NPS should not be a vanity metric. Do not chase that number. Look at the insights, follow up with your detractors, make it right. Understand why your passives aren't promoters, but that is just me on my soapbox here. We'll get back to this. But like I said, something felt really off there. So I dug a bit deeper, and what surfaced wasn't dissatisfaction, it was polarization. Polarized by choice. So customers were overwhelmed by too many similar options. They weren't sure which was right for them and defaulted to returns because they felt insecure about choosing wrong. So the fix wasn't product improvement, it was education and simplification. So one of the things that we did was we launched a guided product quiz, clearer PDP messaging, and a post-purchase journey with usage guidance. So we saw returns drop dramatically. And what I would like to say to folks is sometimes your intuition catches what the spreadsheet cannot. Now, I don't want you to walk into the boardroom with the CEO and say that, right? But make sure you're grounding it there. Let them understand what you're looking at and the why behind you're looking at those things. Again, as people are watching this, they're going to say that Aniesha always needs to know the why. Don't just tell me to make an action or do a thing. I need to know why. And I think that also comes from theater and music background. People who have been in theater and music are definitely going to resonate. It's like, what was your motivation? Why did you walk over there? Why did you do this thing? So I think that kind of like shines through in how I think about things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the other side of it that I'm thinking about from like a data perspective, but also like from your marketing background. So, and the reason I want to ask this question is because, you know, a lot of like CXers are like, oh, where's my like, oh, I'm just in support, or I'm just doing these things, right? But I always coach people to think like a marketer, because at the end of the day, like even if you're in CX and you're like supporting the customer, you should be thinking like a marketer.
Absolutely.
So you individually have experience with segmentation marketing. How do you use customer segmentation to personalize experiences at scale without losing that authentic human touch that high growth brands need?
I love this. I would say segmentation only works when it's behavior based. So I'd say you'd have to speak to where someone is in their journey, what they're trying to solve, their confidence level, and then their concerns. To me, personalization has to feel earned and not invasive. So I think that's how we've done those things in my other legs there.
Yeah, I agree. I think also it's like something that's kind of important too for
Yes.
us to learn. It's like think like a marketer.
Think
You
like a
know,
marketer.
what is one framework you rely on to teach empathy to CX team members who might be more data focused?
Ooh, I love this. I would say empathy is not a skill. Empathy, sorry, that was so wrong. Empathy is a skill. Empathy is not a skill. Empathy is a skill, not a personality type. I think that's another thing too, is we always are trying to guide somebody's personality here. So I teach it through structured frameworks like pause, validate, clarify, solve, close.
Mm-hmm.
Rewriting from the customer's emotional point of view, tone translation exercises. And I think the biggest one here is assuming positive intent and practicing that. I think a lot of times we're always trying to like identify like, is this person lying or is this person being untrue? You can't identify those things. Assume positive intent. I know it's hard, CXers. I know you're the best at the game at this. But the goal isn't to make every agent emotional. It's to help them create trust. So I think if you ground it in that trust aspect and that kind of like grounding yourself, it'll help there too. Because of course we're all humans. We're all going to have those emotions. And it's so easy for people to say, take your emotion out of it. Right. But like, as CXers and marketers, that is inherently what we have to do to be good at our job, right?
I know.
Reframing.
I know.
When I hear that, take the emotion out, I'm like,
I know, but I think that's so stupid, because I think it's really about like business is business and personal
business is business.
personal,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And it's like thinking about it that in those ways.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
Well, you know, switching to like just high growth, like D2C environments, right? So throughout your career, you focused on customer experience in that like that high growth, that high touch.
Mm-hmm.
What is the single biggest operational challenge in scaling a CX team while maintaining quality and brand standards? Like operationally though.
Operationally, oof. I would say getting buy-in across the board and from execs. I think that would be the hardest thing, especially when there are new key principles or foundations like moving CX from being a cost center to be revenue generating. I think it's less about like training those folks on the floor, but like training the org top and managing up. That is where my biggest challenges have been. And I think the other part of that too, and I know you can identify with this, is we're both highly analytical, but we also show up very like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we have this like sunshiny, kind of demeanor. And I think sometimes that can be misconstrued as someone who's unserious or not analytical. So I think that's what's been difficult for me. I feel like you can manage those things on the marketing side and the CX side because those things are inherently who we are. But for folks who maybe don't sit in those kind of like soft skill moments, I think that's where it becomes a little more difficult.
Yeah. Switching gears even from like operational and like executives, we talk a lot about like customer experience and retention and marketing, right? And I'm curious to get your point of view on like what makes a loyalty program genuinely effective in driving repeat business. Because I mean, we're also concerned about LTV and all these things for like the D2C brand, right? But like from the CX lens, what do you think makes a loyalty program genuinely effective?
I have one word for you. Emotion. We just talked about this.
Yeah.
Customers join for perks, but they stay for belonging. And I think that's true across the board. And I don't think that we really talk about belonging enough. And of course, we'll get into DI and inclusivity and all of
Yeah.
those things. But a loyalty program to me should feel like they see me, they remember me, and they like, get me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we stray from that so much. And we're like, what perk can we give them? One of the levers that has been so incredible in my past legs is giving folks the opportunity to sit down with a founder, to sit down with a CEO, be able to ask the questions that you want to ask, have that emotional drive. How did you get here? Why did you start this business? We're seeing so many more entrepreneurs, so many people, coming out and saying like, I don't know if I want to work in corporate. I want to do this on my own. We saw that coming out of the pandemic, right? Where folks are like, I'm self-starting. I'm not doing this anymore. So I think we have to kind of have that lens with our customers as well. It's really, really about belonging, especially in a world where we're what's going on in this world, right? Like you want to feel like you belong in every aspect of your life. And we do not think about that in consumerism at all.
No, we don't. I'm actually glad that you kind of brought up the DEI thing because I wanted to skip ahead and like go
Sure.
specifically about that. So you hold certification in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion from Cornell. Bad bitch. And how do you intentionally incorporate DEI principles into your customer experience practices and then design of inclusive customer journeys?
Sure. First things first, I will say that DEI to me isn't an initiative. It's the lens through which strong customer experience is built. And I think a lot about friction.
Mm-hmm.
Who is excluded by accident? Who struggles to understand our flows? Whose identity changes how they interpret tone, authority, or instruction? So 3 principles really ground me here. Again, all my 3s. But I would say inclusive journey design. So intentionally auditing policies, PDPs, CRM sequences, and flows to identify any bias, accessibility barriers, or inequities. And really thinking about representation as a business strategy. Like to me, equity and inclusion are like the table stakes, right? Like you gotta agree, right?
Yeah.
And you cannot design for customers you don't understand. So representation is not just like moral work; it's essential to insights, empathy, and accuracy. And then I'd say third, psychological safety. We talk a lot about psychological safety, but like really empower decision making.
Yeah.
Internal experience informs external experience. So when teams feel safe, they deliver better service. Employee experience becomes that experience, like I said. So I'd say my leadership style is definitely individualized, and I adapt my coaching as well, depending on whether someone is analytical, skeptical, rational, or highly intuitive. And I think that also helps to train our agents when they're talking to our customers. The other piece of this is it starts from the inside, right? If you inherently do not have a diverse group of people that you are hiring, how can you appeal to a diverse market? How? If I try to show up as you, Jess, I'm never going to be at 100%. There's just no world. I can try. You're pretty great. But we definitely need to show up as our true selves. And we also need to make sure that people feel seen, respected, and valued in every interaction. And again, bringing it back to that internal experience. Who are we hiring? It's not just about Black or brown or, those backgrounds, but are we equitable in all facets? And are we making sure that we're inclusive to those groups altogether?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you also hit on another point because I wanted to bring this up. So like, what would your advice be to other CX leaders on how to focus employee experience and what steps they should take to embed that employee experience into the CX principles?
Absolutely. I think that, and you and I just spoke about this offline, but I'd say your creativity is your differentiator. I think we really need to tap into creativity a little bit more. CX needs nuance, emotional intelligence, storytelling, and instinct. Bring your whole self, you'll stand out. And I think, again, the world is changing. It used to be very cookie cutter. Like I remember being at a brand, and it's no negativity there, but my direct supervisor was like a Bain consultant, right? So anytime that I presented, it was like, it needs to be presented like this. And I would get into those meetings and I would heart beating out of my chest. And I remember that leader was like, Aniesha, like you're a performer, right? And I've seen you be in these spaces. And you present so well and you're so poised and what have you. And I'm like, I'm trying to show up as you. I'm literally trying to, do these spreadsheets and use these buzzwords. And it's like, I'm inherently not going to be successful unless I'm my whole self and I bring those aspects in. Now, I'm not saying go in. I know all the Gen Zers are like, be your true self. You can't literally do that. Like, you have to have polish and also, learn, if you work in corporate, like learn what those nuances are, but use what you do best and then kind of mirror that into what your role entails and how you want to lead others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Do you think that that's the same advice that you would give to somebody who is looking to transition into the CX space from like a creative or non-traditional background?
I think so. I think so. I think just lean into that. Lean into those spaces. Marketers are creative. You have to be creative. You have those folks on your team. And I think we just kind of forget that. We kind of want to be a little bit more prescriptive or fit into like what we think CX is or what we think e-commerce is. And I think when you challenge yourself to quite literally, again, I'm going to say the same thing over and over again, but to tap into those moments of intuition or to tap into those soft skills that set you apart. But again, within reason, within those parameters, I think there's no way but up.
Yeah, totally. Well, looking ahead, what is the most significant change you anticipate for the role of, I was going to actually ask you very specifically for your role, but I think just like overall high level leadership in customer experience, like what do you think the most significant change is going to be?
Sure. And I think I will preface this by saying I think the shift is already happening. But we'll shift from being reactive to predictive and orchestrated. And again, I'm using those music terms again, but like it's all a symphony. It's all orchestrated. Yeah. AI will handle the ops, humans will handle the meeting, technology will refine the how, and empathy will always define the why.
Yeah. Well, girl, we've hit the end of the road.
I don't want it to end. Let's talk about everything now.
I know, but I'm like, girl, it's 5 o'clock here. I gotta wrap up my work day. Okay.
Yes, same.
Tell the audience where they can find you.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Aniesha Jones. Where else can you find me? Basically LinkedIn. I think that's basically where you can find me. And then I'm currently the Senior Director of Concierge and Loyalty at Armra. So pop on. If you want to learn some things, hit us up.
And buy some products.
We have a great journey. Our subscription is great. Truly, this has been so energizing for me. Thank you for allowing me to have this conversation with you. Like I said, everyone knows we are friends outside of this, but to be able to, speak so candidly with you and the fact that you're creating this space where I think we truly are changing perception and changing cues in this world. So thank you for providing this space. Thank you for being such an advocate. And your pedigree is unmatched, and we just all look to
My pedigree is all over the place, babe.
But there you go, unmatched.
I know. Just like you too. We're all different. We're all offering something different in this space. So
absolutely.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Above the Fold, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you.
Dang, we've made it to the end of the podcast and you're still here. So thank you so much for listening to Above the Fold podcast. For the best of this episode and every episode, be sure to follow us on Instagram and my YouTube channel. And for deeper dives on the secrets to brand success, don't forget to subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Sunday Postcards. All right, my dudes and gals, see you next week.